said you wanted to dance.
Yeah, we're not here.
Are you going to chicken out?
What?
On one condition. Now, the kids here have been expecting you to do something, so if you don't want to dance, sing. I know you can do that.
Did you know one secret dance scene nearly changed everything between Elvis and Ann-Margret? The passion was real, but what happened behind the cameras will leave you speechless. From cut scenes to hidden jealousy and a power struggle that reshaped Elvis's career. This story goes way beyond what you saw on screen. Stay with me, because once you hear what really went down, you'll never watch Viva Las Vegas the same way again. Elvis Presley and Ann-Margret lit up the screen with chemistry so intense, audiences couldn't look away. But beneath the glitz of Viva Las Vegas was a hidden rivalry simmering just beneath the surface. Today, we pull back the curtain to reveal the untold story behind one of Hollywood's most electrifying partnerships. In 1964, under the gleaming chandeliers of the Riviera ballroom, Elvis, already crowned the king of rock and roll, found himself sharing the spotlight with a fiery newcomer whose presence threatened to challenge his dominance. Ann-Margret wasn't just another starlet. Her magnetic energy made it impossible for anyone to ignore. What unfolded on set was more than just a collaboration. It was a silent duel for supremacy, a battle of star power that could have rewritten the hierarchy of Hollywood itself. But how did these two icons first collide? And was their explosive chemistry real or cleverly manufactured? The stage was set in 1963 on the buzzing sound stages of MGM. Hollywood was at its peak, a place where dreams were sculpted into reality with precision. Elvis Presley was already a cinematic heavyweight, his films drawing massive crowds and consistent profits. Into this carefully built empire stepped Ann-Margret Olsen, a Swedish-American powerhouse whose star was rising fast after her dynamic performance in Bye Bye Birdie. She wasn't just another fresh face. Her energy was electric, a pulse that could be felt the moment she entered a room. MGM executives, plotting the success of Viva Las Vegas, knew they needed a co-star who wouldn't be overshadowed by Presley's immense fame. Ann-Margret was that rare spark, one that could stand toe-to-toe with the king himself. Their first meeting on the lively set of Viva Las Vegas has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. Ann-Margret approached Elvis with a blend of respect and quiet confidence, fully aware of his stature, yet secure in her own growing power. Elvis, with his signature Southern charm, welcomed her warmly, but behind his smile, there was a spark of recognition. He wasn't dealing with a typical ingenue. She arrived with a reputation that preceded her. Industry insiders were already buzzing about her boundless energy, with Film Inc. noting how she had easily outpaced her previous male co-stars. Very few had managed to keep up with her, but Elvis was different. This wasn't just a meeting of fame, it was a meeting of equals, both driven by a deep, instinctual connection to music and performance. As they worked together, their bond deepened rapidly. It wasn't just professional courtesy, it was an unspoken understanding rooted in their mutual passion for rhythm and movement. Ann-Margret would later reveal that they both experienced music on a visceral level, almost communicating through an invisible current of sound and energy. This connection laid the groundwork for what would become one of the most memorable on-screen partnerships of the era. Yet, as rumors swirled, many wondered, was this powerful rapport purely professional, or was there a deeper, more personal spark igniting behind the scenes? The studio, keenly aware of the magnetic pull between its stars, watched as Viva Las Vegas transformed from a simple musical into a sizzling spectacle. The stakes were enormous. The film's success hinged on the combustible chemistry between Elvis and Ann-Margret, and from the first moment they shared the frame, it was clear they had struck cinematic gold. Their scenes weren't just performances. They were charged exchanges that threatened to overshadow the very film they were creating. Their mutual passion for performance wasn't just evident. It was magnetic, pulling viewers into their orbit. The real magic unfolded on the dance floor. When Elvis and Ann-Margret moved together, It was far more than synchronized choreography. It was as if they became reflections of one another, each feeding off the other's intensity. Their rehearsals weren't casual run-throughs, but intense workshops of artistry and endurance. Rare behind-the-scenes photos capture their dedication. Sweat glistening, eyes focused, bodies in constant motion, as they crafted scenes destined to become iconic. The man orchestrating much of this magic was David Winters, who had a unique advantage. He was once Ann-Margret's own dance student. Handpicked by Ann-Margret, Winters brought an intimate knowledge of her capabilities, pushing her to the limits and tailoring choreography that highlighted her explosive energy. Supporting him was the vibrant Toni Basil, who not only contributed creatively, but appeared on screen as the memorable girl in the red dress during the famous pool scene. Basil's recollections of those rehearsals are filled with awe, remembering how both stars were trained separately before finally uniting for their first full rehearsal. The moment they danced together, she recalled, the electricity in the room was undeniable. It wasn't just chemistry, it was an overwhelming force. Ann-Margret described this synergy with striking honesty in her memoirs, explaining how music ignited a powerful, pent-up energy within both of them. The way she put it, they weren't merely executing rehearsed moves. They were unleashing something raw, almost instinctive. Their movements mirrored each other so closely that when Elvis made a move, Ann-Margret instinctively followed with equal force. This wasn't a carefully plotted routine. It was a living, breathing duet of passion and precision, each performer challenging and elevating the other. Watching their dance sequences even now, particularly the explosive lead-in to "Come On Everybody," the intensity remains palpable. Their synchronized energy bursts from the screen, blending precision with wild, joyful freedom. It was not just choreography. It was lightning in a bottle, captured forever on film. Ann-Margret herself acknowledged this almost supernatural connection, describing it as a current that flowed between them, impossible to control or replicate. What audiences witnessed wasn't a scripted performance, but a spontaneous eruption of talent and emotion that neither star could fully contain. Even before Viva Las Vegas, Ann-Margret's extraordinary dancing abilities had already captivated audiences, with Life magazine famously remarking that her fiery dancing could nearly replace central heating in theaters. On set with Elvis, this energy didn't just continue, it intensified. Her every move was a breathtaking mix of control and abandon, precision and exuberance, turning each scene into a masterclass of unrestrained artistry. Was their electrifying performance simply the product of rehearsed choreography, or was something far more extraordinary unfolding before the cameras? Watching Elvis and Ann-Margret dance together didn't feel like mere acting. It was like witnessing two souls communicating through movement, rhythm, and mutual admiration. Each glance they shared, every synchronized move, radiated a connection so intense it almost transcended the boundaries of the film itself. And one can't help but wonder, had Elvis, who had danced alongside many leading ladies, ever encountered a partner who mirrored his energy with such uncanny precision? Could anyone else have matched him stride for stride the way Ann-Margret did, fusing their talents into an unforgettable cinematic moment? As the camera rolled, the question loomed larger. Who truly commanded the stage? The visual evidence captured forever on film invites endless debate. Their energy was magnetic, their movements flawlessly intertwined. But was Ann-Margret, with her blazing charisma, quietly stealing the spotlight from the king himself? The more you watch, the more that question lingers. Was Elvis being upstaged right before our eyes? Rumors swirled around the set as Ann-Margret's star continued to rise, her presence growing impossible to ignore. Whispers suggested that while Elvis delivered his signature moves, Ann-Margret was stealing focus, becoming the center of gravity in every shared scene. Critics were not shy in expressing what many were thinking. Gold Radio boldly stated that she didn't just compliment Elvis, She stole the show. And truly, it wasn't hard to see why. Her boundless energy, captivating charm, and sheer command over the screen left audiences mesmerized, their eyes inevitably drawn to her every movement. Neusner captured it best, declaring Ann-Margret as someone who seemed to dance like no one's watching. Yet paradoxically, it was impossible not to watch her. With each swing of her hips, each graceful spin, she embodied a performer so completely immersed in her art that even Elvis, the king of rock and roll, risked being overshadowed in his own domain. Her performances weren't merely well executed. They were electrifying, raw, and fearlessly unrestrained. Director George Sidney recognized this rare magic and couldn't resist amplifying it. Reports from the set reveal how his camera seemed to favor Ann-Margret, capturing her every nuance with lingering close-ups and numerous takes. While some saw this as a director's duty to highlight brilliance, others, especially those within Elvis's inner circle, saw it as a threat to the king's reign. The balance of power on set was subtly shifting. Sidney, captivated by her natural magnetism, allowed Ann-Margret's vibrant persona to shine, even if it meant Elvis's screen presence appeared to dim in comparison. One curious observation from fans only added fuel to this delicate dynamic. Some noticed moments during high-energy scenes where Elvis's lip sync appeared slightly off, as if momentarily distracted. Could it be that Ann-Margret's dazzling performance was even affecting Elvis's focus? Watching closely during the explosive "Come On Everybody" number, you might catch those brief lapses, tiny, telling cracks that hint at the overwhelming force of Ann-Margret's energy, consuming even the king's attention. Their dance styles, though both captivating, stood worlds apart. Elvis had long been celebrated for his iconic instinctual movements, those hip swivels and knee drops that had set hearts racing worldwide. But Ann-Margret arrived with a different arsenal altogether. Her foundation was rooted in formal training at the Marjorie Young School of Dance, layering technical precision atop her already potent natural energy. She wasn't just performing the steps, she was owning them, attacking them with a fierce determination that radiated both power and grace. Each movement was bold, athletic, and fearless, a whirlwind of explosive artistry. This dynamic sparks another burning question. Were audiences witnessing a friendly rivalry, an unspoken dance-off unfolding between two titans of performance? Or was Ann-Margret simply so innately gifted that she couldn't help but dominate the shared stage? Her presence felt less like competition and more like a force of nature, one that refused to be contained or overshadowed. But behind the glittering performances, one couldn't ignore the potential strain this delicate balance may have placed on Elvis. For a man who was accustomed to being the sole gravitational force in any room, sharing the limelight with someone who could not only match, but occasionally surpass his charisma might have stirred complex emotions. Was there a twinge of envy? An undercurrent of discomfort? Or perhaps an unspoken admiration for Ann-Margret's undeniable brilliance? The behind-the-scenes whispers suggest a battle of egos was quietly brewing, with admiration mingling dangerously with unease. As the cameras continued rolling, the off-camera tension began to simmer, setting the stage for a power struggle that extended far beyond the dance floor. And that's when the real storm hit. Once filming paused, Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's fiercely protective and business-savvy manager, took center stage. The chemistry between Elvis and Ann-Margret may have thrilled audiences, but for Parker, it posed a professional dilemma. His job was to safeguard Elvis's brand, and Ann-Margret's rising star threatened to disrupt the delicate empire he had so carefully constructed. Parker viewed director George Sidney as the primary culprit, accusing him of deliberately spotlighting Ann-Margret at Elvis's expense. According to reports, Parker wasted no time confronting the studio, reminding them that this was an Elvis Presley film, and nothing, not even undeniable chemistry, should dilute his client's dominance. Sidney, passionate about the artistry unfolding, defended his choices, arguing that Ann-Margret's vibrancy only enhanced the film. But Parker wasn't concerned with artistry. His mission was control. Under mounting pressure, the studio made decisions that would forever alter the film's final cut. Several key duets and romantic scenes were removed entirely. Among these were the playful "You're the Boss" and the tender, intimate ballad "Today, Tomorrow, and Forever," both of which showcased the depth of Elvis and Ann-Margret's on-screen relationship. Their exclusion wasn't simply a matter of pacing. It was a calculated move to keep the king's spotlight intact. Even more intriguingly, some reports suggest that Elvis himself may have echoed Parker's concerns, alleging that Sidney was trying to cut him out of his own movie. Whether these complaints reflected Elvis's true insecurities or were fueled by Parker's influence remains a mystery. What is clear, however, is that the electric collaboration between Elvis and Ann-Margret, while iconic, sparked behind-the-scenes tensions that nearly altered the trajectory of one of Hollywood's most unforgettable pairings. The whispers behind the cameras were growing louder. It wasn't just about dance steps or duets anymore. It was about the balance of power, and George Sidney, the director, found himself walking a tightrope. Fox News once spotlighted Sidney's delicate move in the film's closing scene, the now iconic split screen. It was more than a stylistic choice. It was a quiet solution to a simmering problem, ensuring both Elvis and Ann-Margret were showcased equally, but separately. Was it a fair compromise or a carefully calculated concession designed to maintain the king's unchallenged reign? This wasn't merely about artistry anymore. It was a battleground of egos, ambition, and branding. The sizzling chemistry that erupted on screen had unexpectedly lit a fire behind the scenes. Ann-Margret's undeniable magnetism had stirred something deep within Elvis's camp. A sense of vulnerability, perhaps even a flicker of insecurity. And Colonel Parker, always fiercely protective, was quick to act, shielding his client's empire from any potential threat, even if it meant sacrificing cinematic magic that might have captivated generations. But beneath this professional tug-of-war lay something far more personal, a connection that neither Hollywood politics nor studio interference could fully erase. Was it true love? Or was it another Hollywood illusion, amplified by bright lights and scripted charm? Ann-Margret herself offered hints, though never the full story. In her memoir, My Story, she described Elvis not as the one who slipped away, but as someone who reflected her soul, a mirror image. Their bond, she suggested, was born not out of fleeting passion, but from an extraordinary mutual understanding. Their similarities were uncanny. Both had emerged from humble beginnings, holding tight to faith and family as fame tried to pull them apart. While others reveled in the wild party circuits of the time, Elvis and Ann-Margret found comfort in quieter moments. Late-night motorcycle rides, heartfelt conversations, and simple family dinners. They weren't just co-stars. They were each other's sanctuary in a world spinning out of control. And yet, despite this rare intimacy, Elvis's world was complicated. Back home in Memphis, Priscilla Beaulieu waited, a young woman who had sacrificed much of her youth for the king's affections. The weight of responsibility, public image, and obligations to RCA and Colonel Parker made certain choices impossible for Elvis. Love, as pure as it might have been, couldn't always compete with the machinery of his career. Even the studio may have leaned into the rumors, subtly amplifying the buzz for marketing's sake. The sizzling chemistry sold tickets, but was everything as spontaneous as it seemed? The truth likely lived somewhere in the gray, genuine affection intertwined with studio strategy. Yet members of Elvis's inner circle viewed Ann-Margret with suspicion. She wasn't just stealing scenes. Some feared she might steal the king himself. But even as the years rolled by and their romance dissolved quietly, their affection endured in unmistakable ways. Every time Ann-Margret launched a new Las Vegas show, a floral arrangement would appear backstage. a guitar-shaped bouquet from Elvis. These silent gestures spoke volumes. Despite the constraints of their worlds, respect and tenderness remained. At the height of Viva Las Vegas's release, few grasped the full depth of their connection. The passionate glances, the lost duets, the behind-the-scenes rivalries, all of it remained buried beneath glossy magazine spreads and carefully curated headlines. It was only years later, through memoirs and insider revelations, that the true weight of their story began to emerge. And that brings us to the heart of what keeps this narrative alive even today. Was Viva Las Vegas simply a glitzy musical, or was it one of Hollywood's most electric, unscripted moments? Some argue that their chemistry still ranks among the most authentic and captivating in cinematic history. Had certain scenes survived the cutting room floor, might Elvis's career have pivoted toward riskier, emotionally richer roles? Would the king have ventured into deeper waters had Ann-Margret remained a constant creative partner? What remains undeniable is that something rare was captured. A collision of two unstoppable forces, pushing and elevating each other, even when the cameras weren't rolling. And now, when fans revisit Viva Las Vegas, it's not just the dazzling choreography or catchy tunes they notice. They search for the subtle glances, the unscripted sparks that no director could have orchestrated. Beneath all the nostalgia lies an empire of luxury that both stars built from their parallel rises. Elvis, of course, turned Graceland into his royal court, complete with custom jets like the Lisa Marie, a fleet of Cadillacs and Rolls-Royces, and an impressive collection of jewelry, including his beloved Omega watches. Meanwhile, Ann-Margret quietly amassed her own fortune, securing real estate in Los Angeles, vintage cars, and high-end Cartier and Rolex timepieces. Both protected their wealth with substantial insurance coverage, policies safeguarding not just health, but career interruptions and valuable assets. Ann-Margret's shrewd business ventures in entertainment and endorsements added to her enduring net worth, while Elvis's estate, even after his passing, transformed into a billion-dollar legacy under Priscilla's guidance. If there's a financial lesson hidden within their legacies, it's this: diversify, protect your brand, and recognize the enduring power of controlled public image mixed with genuine talent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. After all, some legends still dance in our hearts.
There was a real